Welcome to the Gold Series. I am D2 and with me is Shrink. We are on day 7 of this incredible grand finals that is continuing to go on. Today we have a pretty interesting group. A lot of players that I am not personally that familiar with, but researching them, actually 3 of these players have won a major LAN over the past year, which is incredible. And the 4th, MrHumor, is arguably the best player on his team, World Elite, which almost made the HES playoffs. So actually a pretty stacked group and pretty underrated group overall in general. Shrink.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the MrHumor's best player on what it is thing, but yeah, this is a
Arguably,
group I've been
arguably.
looking forward to, but because we really had 2 really amazing players that we were going to see in the first series, even though they didn't achieve as much as say people go to BlizzCon, but their deck is something we should really pay attention to. Well, I'm going to say this morning, but I guess it depends on where you live. Uh, I mean, both players are famous for their wanky tag choice in the decks. We have Buer, who would play Leroy in mid-range Party and mid-range Druid and play Enhanced Volcano. In Handlock, and we have Zhangbo, who won actually the Gold Series here, and with a very interesting pattern deck. You have Mad Scientist and Redemption. You have Soundworker in that deck, so definitely something to look forward to. On the other side, Sword made some money by winning this I series last year and the season 4 of it, and MrHumor, of course, is a very strong player, but we'll have the first series between 2 tag players first here.
Right, and we do have Zhangbo on the screen. He is actually one of the lesser known players in this group. You see he has basically the Gold Series, hoodie on, and he is teamless. The prefix before his name just says good student, which is pretty interesting, but he did win Xi'an the Gold Series there, which is why he was basically the first seed of this group. If you got the qualification for BlizzCon or you won a Gold Series, basically you are the #1 seed in your group. Interestingly enough, some of the players in this group might have actually higher bounties than the first seed. We'll see what the bounty is. Usually it's about 10,000 for the 1 seed. We've seen it a bit lower sometimes, but we'll see what happens here. Be interesting to see who has actually the highest bounty. I'm actually pretty excited to see that as we see Zhangbo on the screen. And just to go over the players once more, you saw that on the screen, but probably a lot of you don't actually retain his. Actually, okay, so his bounty is 7,000, kind of expected. We saw that for another player earlier in the tournament as well from Lonely God. And let me just write down his decks here really quick. Druid, Warrior, Mage, and Warlock. A Mage, a bit of a surprise there, but before I ask your opinion on that, String, let me just reiterate or restate basically who the players are in this group. It's Zhangbo, Buer, who is the nominee from DouyuTV, though he does have his own accomplishments, and we'll go over that in a second. And then the next player is IG's Sword, Invictus Gaming Sword, who got here by winning the I-League that that Shrink mentioned, and he got $40,000 for that, which is absolutely huge. And then MrHumor, who is nominated by Team World Elite. As we take a look at Buer, he is a streamer, and 2,000 yuan bounty, which is kind of low if you ask me. Let me just write down his decks as well. Druid, oh no, they're already off the screen. Well, we'll write down later. But Buer, actually, he won the G League last year and got a few $1,000s for that. Translates to US dollars, obviously. But he also has the Gold Series hoodie there, as the Priest of Buer is banned out here, and the Warrior of Zhangbo is banned out here by Buer. Interesting. I wonder if they were predicting those bans by their opponent, Shrink.
Well, definitely, it could be a possibility. Zhangbo actually said that he is rather familiar with Zhu and Patron Warriors, so I guess that's one of the reasons we see this kind of ban. And there's any picks because you pick it for yourself and you are your opponent for ban, but. And the counter ban perhaps is some consideration as well. And Buer, well, I mean, as we talk about their weird tags, we really need to go into the games to see what they are going to do with their choices there. But we'll do that soon.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be either Murloc Paladin or Midrange Paladin on the side of Buer, and on the side of Zhangbo, it's going to be just a standard Mech Mage with Fel Reavers in it. You were mentioning before that Buer actually likes to put some crazy stuff in his decks, like Leroy Jenkins and Midrange Paladin and Druid, and he also likes to put Enhanced Mechano in his handlock. We'll see if we see anything like that, any crazy stuff like that. Since we do see Paladin, Druid, and Warlock still playable for Buer, so be excited to see if that happens. But so far, pretty heavy costing hand here for Buer. Probably doesn't want to see this. Wanted to see something more like, Zombie Channel's mini boss to hold off this Mech Mage. Do you think Buer is expecting a Mech Mage here?
Well, I mean, that's one of the possibilities. Actually, Zhangbo, I think he played Mech Mage at one point of his Gold Series round, so if Brad did his research, he should be aware of the possibility, to say this. But no matter how well his research has done, he has to Hero Paladin pass this turn.
Right. Yeah, definitely a really bad turn for him. I want to ask about his name, actually. So I know a few Chinese characters here and there because I know a bit of Japanese. So his name, if you read it in Japanese, would be not two. Is that what his name means? I'm just curious right now.
Oh, yes, that's definitely true, because two is kind of the Chinese equivalent of noob, because it's a really new word. It's kind of online slang, which it will mean is now noob. So
okay, so he's not a noob. Definitely is Buer, as evidenced by his winning the G League last year. But pretty intimidating board from Zhangbo. I mean, it's pretty nice to be able to go Mech Warper into that Snow Chug, especially against a class that relies heavily on weapons as Paladin does. The thing for at least Buer was able to pick up Muster for Battle, one of the best 3-drops in the game, so that he has that going for him. Now he has to decide whether he wants to, Defender of Argus or Keeper of Oldemon. Consecrate is okay; it's not the greatest, but I personally would like to see a Keeper of Oldemon here. But looks like he's just gonna go for a Consecrate instead. Does clear up most of the board in this situation. He will be able to swing his Light's Justice next turn.
yes, but a bit unfortunate for Ryder is that Zhangbo still has a Mech in place. He could activate the Blast Mage here. We see it coming down.
Right. I do like this play. I do like this play. He was thinking about going, with the Noitron and Ping and Cog Master, but I mean, you can basically Dragon's Breath your opponent in the face. It's pretty good. And now Buer in a bit of a bind here. I imagine you just have to go for the Sludge Belcher and basically take the bad trade with the Blast Mage, and then maybe you can clean up the board with Consecrate later. If you do something like Loatheb, you're just basically taking 9 damage to the face, which you can't really afford. So yeah, I definitely like this play here. Just get in the way for a bit. Hopefully your opponent doesn't have too good of a hand, and then maybe you can clear up with Consecrate and heal up later.
Yeah, definitely has a blood to clear that Mech Warper. Now Zhangbo can get another Mech out of the Gorilla Bot.
Eventually, not this turn though, unfortunately. I imagine... Oh, he's just gonna go for it? That's interesting. I suppose if he goes for the Noitron, his board just gets cleared up. And Zhangbo had a bit of a weird response there. Maybe, I don't know if he was completely expecting that to not draw a card for him or discover a new mech, but in any case, it's, it ended up not drawing a card for him, so maybe he got a little impatient there. It does leave a 3-2 on the board, which can start hitting the face here, which is definitely important. And yeah, just gonna go with the Frostbolt to face and ping this 1-1. I assume gonna get a lot of damage to face here. Basically, Zhangbo is all in, but he has a decent chance of taking it out here. Oh, pings the face even.
Yes. Or, oh, this is interesting because if you Loatheb,
you can't taunt, right? So, yeah, I mean, I would like to just see the Zombie Chow plus, a Defender of Argus, something like that. Maybe he's afraid of a Fireball, but he's just dead on... I mean, he just takes 4 extra damage anyway, so... I don't know if I like this too much. Might not matter in the end anyway, because Dr. Boom's hitting the field, and that's difficult to deal with. I imagine it's going to be... Well, Tyrion's kind of okay, but... yeah, some sort of...
You
You have to taunt in some form or fashion here. But just Keeper of Alderaan and Defender of Argus seems reasonable. Probably take out one of the three attack minions here with this Lothab. And do you hit one of the boombots with your face? Actually, I think you can't, huh? You can't really do that. Yeah, so it's gonna hit the face there. And basically, oh, that's fireball. I was about to say, any top deck damage kills him, as we see a smile from Zhangbo. He takes game number 1 and goes up 1-0 in this best of 5 series. By the way, it is best of 5 Conquest with 1 ban. We saw the ban earlier. In case you guys are unfamiliar, that's how this works. Buer doesn't look too happy here, but has a way to get back into the game. Sometimes those mech mage hands can just be like that. So, we'll see what happens in the next game with that win with the mage, with the clear of the mage from Zhangbo, as we see our Chinese casters on the screen. Actually, who are the Chinese casters that we have? We have Montage in the center. That's one person I do know. On the right, is a streamer, I believe, right?
Yeah, he is actually is Qiu. He's a teammate of Buer there. He's also from DouyuTV, so cast bios there apparently. And we have Ding, who recently left Team Celestial for Invictus, and we might be able to see him in this coming up team story next year. So that's it. And we have
an interview with Buer here. So listen in on that, Shrink, and we'll get his comments in a moment. In the meantime, just talking about how this match is going to go down. Druid and Warlock remaining for Zhangbo, going against the Druid, Warlock, and Paladin from Buer. So a bit of advantage, obviously, for Zhangbo, but still not quite over, definitely, yet. And, what did Buer have to say there?
Yeah, and Buer actually says he actually likes the RNG in Hearthstone. He says that it actually provides you with indefinite possibilities in the game. And he also said, yeah, I'm here just send 2 people into the playoffs, and I can go home to spend the New Year with my family.
Right. So, generous guy, Buer, allowing other people to advance. Looks like we have a Zoo deck here from Zhangbo. And Buer has queued up his Paladin once more. We see that he actually has Coghammer and Justicar in his deck, so definitely a deck that, has a reasonable curve. It's not as expensive as we just saw previously, but we'll see how he's able to hold off the Zoo here. This is kind of an even-ish matchup. I would say it maybe slightly favors the mid-range Paladin, as long as they're able to get, their mini-bots and, muster for battles in the field.
Yes, that's true. Definitely true. And Buer is actually coined this mini bot. I guess you want to fight for the board, and but he doesn't have any good 2-drop to follow that. Never mind.
Well, he obviously knew that was coming up next, right? So, and then turn 3, just top deck a muster for battle right at the top is perfect. Both players actually have a pretty good start right here. I'm actually a bit surprised that Zhangbo didn't go for the Imp King boss. It's a pretty powerful card. I guess he did wanted to commit to killing this Night Draco before any knives come out of it. So I suppose that makes a bit of sense here. I'm going to be a kill onto this Void Walker. However, it's not the greatest kill. It's not the greatest use of the Divine Shield, but really can't. There's nothing you can do there in that situation. Back on the side of Zhangbo, he has a pretty decent turn 4, just, Flame Imp plus the Imp King boss, takes out this guy in the field, and, somewhat sticky board, a lot of health there, can't really take it out with just a Consecrate, obviously, and, it looks like Buer's just playing from behind, though, it's nice to have, he's going to take out this Flame Imp, and he's going to be able to have, Healbot for the future if he gets down too low, so this game is still looking not overwhelming for either player, I would say.
Yes, definitely. Especially consider Buer has draw a Healbot there. Actually, I think it's one of the options, even though Keep the Alderman will provide some good trade with board. But
yeah, it's tough, right? Because if you use the Keeper of Alderman here, then you're able to make your opponent's board smaller right now. But if you play the heal bot now, then you have a more mana efficient turn next turn, and you can maybe use equality with your Alderman, or maybe even use a hero power. So it's basically how much danger you think you're in, plus how much health you actually gain by making your opponent's board smaller. We do see that if Buer, for instance, okay, well, if he, for instance, maybe keepered his own Shredder, he might actually be dead to both the Direwolf Alpha and the Power Overwhelming. But let's see, we have 9 damage on the board and an extra 6 in hand, so pretty sizable amount of damage, and we'll see what he goes for. Speaking of Zhangbo, goes for the Dark Peddler. Obviously, it's going to be a Dark Peddler plus Direwolf Alpha turn, I hope, or I presume. Just goes for the damage here. Definitely makes sense. The other two weren't that great. Just going to start hitting the face. With all that damage in hand, definitely makes sense. Basically 6 out of hand as long as something sticks on the board. Sludge Belcher comes up, and looks like that's going to be the play for Buer here. And one-hit cheat is actually pretty good for trading, so that's kind of nice for him. See what happens here. Another Direwolf Alpha. So this is a very low curving deck here from Zhangbo. Obviously has a Dr. Boom, but I'd be a bit surprised if we see things like Malgan. This is probably the top of his curve.
Yes, it's what's usually Zilog plays at the highest curve, but this is a tricky board for. But he'd like to have one of the consecration he had in game 1, but
right, right. 2 consecrations in game 1 and 0 in this game. He really would like that. In fact, I don't think he can live if you think about it. I think the only way he lives is if he plays. I mean, he has to play Loatheb and an Equality, I think, in order to live. That's the only way he lives. Otherwise, there's too much damage in the hand of Zhangbo.
Can you play Dr. Boom and get some crazy boom bots?
Well, you can't kill your own boom bots is the problem. Oh, you can. Well, I guess you can hit their boom bots and then they hit your boom bots and then I suppose. But then you have to throw away a 3-1 or a 4-1, which is a lot of damage to be throwing away. Even with his equality, is he still dead? Because the power one would still only be 6 mana, which wouldn't be too big a deal. So let's see. Puts the Loatheb on the field. There's 4 on the board. The power is +4. There's actually 6 in hand, and he actually has the mana to use it. So actually, it's still a game, which is kind of sad. Yeah, it's just going to go for the Flare with the Direwolf Alpha instead. And that's going to be a game even through the Loatheb, and Zhangbo is going to take a 2-0 series lead.
Where's the Leroy?
Where is the Leroy, indeed? If you guys are unaware, apparently Buer likes to play Leroy in crazy decks, and he actually wins with them, so it's kind of unfortunate to see him going down so quickly to these aggressive decks from Zhangbo, because we really wanted to see that crazy tech, but we might not be able to, because Zhangbo says, I don't care about your crazy tech, I just want to get to the round of 16.
Definitely zero respect for tech cards there, and we have a Druid coming up. Actually, it kind of depends on what Buer is bringing with that Warlock class, because it could be Zoo, and we are probably going to a Druid with Druid Mirror, and Buer is in a kind of dangerous spot, but I don't think he's really facing up against real challenge, because I mean Druid Mirror, things can happen in that matchup.
Right, I mean, he still has a path to come back, right? Druid's one of those classes that can win against every class, but can also lose against every class if it gets a bad start. Looks like it's going to be an aggro Druid from Zhangbo here with those Fel Reavers. I would be very surprised if it wasn't an aggro Druid, considering those Fel Reavers. And looks like he is going to be... He's a bit indecisive whether he wants to keep those Fel Reavers. They can be very, very effective, obviously, against any class, but, with the Keeper of Alderman in the hand of Buer, he has a pretty good way of dealing with it. Unless, of course, it's innervated out. Actually, Midrange Paladin has a really good way of dealing with Fel Reavers. One of the best things you can do to Fel Reaver, rather than BGHing it, you just use the Outdoor Peacekeeper.
Cool.
And basically, you have a 1/8 that your opponent can just mill you with. And it doesn't do any damage, and you run out of cards. So that's basically better than BGH in that situation, if you think about it. But we'll see if that happens. The Keeper of Aldemon's pretty good as well, as you see this Darnassus hitting the field. There actually could have been a turn 2 Fellraver here for Zhangbo. I wonder why he didn't go for that. But it looks like that's going to be played this time, but it's going to be met with inequality, unfortunately. Well, probably with equality. There could be a Keeper of Aldemon as well, I suppose. And yeah, in fact, he's going to do this Keeper. I guess it does make his board a bit bigger here for future turns. And he's going to start racing, actually, which is pretty interesting. I guess he's telling Zhangbo, you better throw away your guy or else I'm going to keep milling you. But it's not like, you know, it's not like Buer can really do much anyway. As far as, you know, milling his opponent is concerned. So swipe comes out of Zhangbo, just takes care of this board. Gonna innervate into, what are we innervating into? A Knife Juggler, which is pretty nice here. And on the side of Buer, he could go for there's the Outdoor Peacekeeper there, but could go for Sludge Belcher, could go for Outdoor if he feels like it. Could also go for Consecrate and clear the board. Looks like it's going to be that Sludge Belcher. And with this in the field, I imagine that Zhangbo finally just throws away his Fellraver. Living Root, Snipe Juggler, and Force Nature. I imagine Buer wants to discard the Savage Roar more than anything, because, you know, your opponent's board can get pretty big and then he just kills you.
Well, yeah, I mean, under these circumstances, actually, I think it's a Keeper of Grove that you want to discard your opponent, because Keeper of Grove silence the Fellraver and things starting to go really badly for you. So,
right. Pretty bad knives here from this Knife Juggler. Actually, he throws away the Knife Juggler and not the Fellraver?
Oh, mistake, as he did that.
Yeah, that's pretty bizarre, I would say. Looks like it's going to be just Equality Consecrate just to clear out this board. It also discards a lot of cards. And then most likely this 3-1 Belcher gets to clear out what's remaining. There's other options as well, obviously. He could go for an Aldor Peacekeeper, maybe. Thing is, like, how much damage does he want to take? I mean, clearing the board is nice, but if you don't develop your own board, it can be difficult in the future. So it's actually, it's not the most obvious turn here for Buer.
Well, I mean, you could just think that you're going to mill as many cards as possible, which is also a reasonable play here.
Yeah, probably not happy to get the Innervate, but everything else here has been pretty good. Yeah, there's the Keeper, Drew the Claw, you know, the Keeper. What was it? The Keeper, the Drew the Claw, the Savage Roar. Those are all pretty good cards, as well as the Shredder as well. Force Nature comes in the hand of Zhangbo, and let's see what he goes with. I imagine just has to be the Drew the Claw, though that will be probably just Eldord. Oh, it's going to be in charge. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing aggro, you better charge your things as well. But Outdoor, take care of this Drill Claw.
Kind of. It's still can attack and maybe gets you know, Savage Roar up later in the game. Dr. Boom right on time for Zhangbo here, and you can see Buer's face not too happy about that situation. We have a Sir Finley. I imagine if he goes over that, it's probably going to be for... Oh, he can actually Finley into a Justicar, so he can maybe get like a 10 Cup or a Priest Hero Power here. But first, it's going to be the Blessing of Kings on this Aldor, and gonna try to have this bomb hit the Aldor obviously before he trades in, which he needs to do. Hits the face unfortunately for 3. And yeah, we'll see what happens with this Sir Finley Murgleton. He's really gonna want to have something to heal here. Doesn't get anything. Gets a Mage Hero Power, which is okay, but not the greatest.
Well, I mean, you can choose.
Oh,
Warlock.
you can choose Shaman and then get the Taunt Totem every time with Justicar.
Oh, true.
So that's a thing. You can also get the better Mage Hero Power, hidden pink for 2. But yeah, it looks like he's gonna go for this. So you can choose the taunt, and he gets the taunt actually right off the bat right now. But after he plays Justicar, he can actually just get taunt every single time, which is kind of nice. Right, actually didn't charge in. I'm a bit surprised by that. would have thought he would have just charged in. But in any case, most of this board can get cleared up depending on where this... Oh, the Boombot's not going to die. What am I talking about? Loth... I imagine the play here is just going to be a Defender and Lotheb. And probably just play Justicar next turn.
Yeah, I mean, you could roll 2 Tauntauns next turn, so that's a really good play. And Zhangbo has 6 cards.
Yeah, 6 cards remaining. And does he have another Fellraver in his deck, actually? That'd be kind of interesting. I do like playing the Lotheb first. Or actually, I think he's actually going to taunt the Lotheb, but he's kind of okay with the Lotheb taking damage here in this case. But takes 1, which is not too bad. So, yeah, Buer looking actually in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say, actually, the second Fellraver was burned.
Oh, it was? Okay, okay. Just making sure. There are a lot of cards burned, so it's hard to keep track sometimes. I believe there's 1 Savage Roar left, if I'm not mistaken. But Choose Over is kind of nice. I imagine he just goes for the double totem, though. Gets the Searing Totem. Probably going to just go ahead and choose the Taunt Totem there. And yeah, this Taunt Totem every single turn is pretty good for him.
Yeah, actually, that's the first time I've seen that you got to choose Totem.
Yeah, no one ever plays Justicar in Shabbat, right? It's pretty funny. Anyway, there's the Fellraver. It's really risky because he probably just discards the rest of his deck if he plays it, does Zhangbo. So I'm not really sure if he does go for it. The problem here is that he's actually facing down a ton of damage on the board. So he could be dead. I don't think there's lethal on board, but he definitely could be dead if his opponent, picks up a True Silver, quote unquote. We do see that's in the hand of Buer. And so, I mean, if you just play the Fellraver, you basically run out of cards, most likely. And if you play the Force of Nature, you're not playing with your last Savage Roar. So, in any case, I think this might be lethal. 6, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, so exactly lethal, actually. And that's going to be the first game going over to Buer. And he's going to, not going to tie the series, excuse me. He's going to bring it to 1 game to 2.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the enhanced Mechanical Handlock.
I definitely want to see that as well. Definitely want to see that in Handsome Morgano. I'm still mad that we didn't see Leroy, but maybe Buer is taking this a bit more seriously than he has in the past. But good to see him pick up a win there. Really interesting to see Zhangbo go with, basically 3 very aggressive decks thus far. I wonder what his warrior was. Probably something like a Patron Warrior, considering how he's playing. Maybe Aggro Warrior?
I think Patron actually he
Aggro Warrior.
In the interview that he preferred Patron.
I think it would be Aggro Warrior with Curse Blade.
It could be a thing. I mean,
well, we might see that in the future, but for the time being, it's going to continue to be that Aggro Druid, which does pretty well against mid-range Druid. I would say it's not too favored for either side. It basically just acts like Zoo or Mech Mage versus Druid, which I guess would favor the Aggro Druid, but there's a bit different tools in there. So let's see how this plays out. And yeah, not too bad here for Zhangbo. I think I would keep the Knife Juggler. You might as well, right? Have a 1-drop into a 2-drop. Don't want to have too clunky of a hand if you are playing the aggressive side. And on the side of Buer, he has Wild Growth, but nothing else really. The Wrath is kind of nice, obviously, to start taking care of your opponent's board. We might see a Coin Wild Growth. Yeah, I think we're going to see that because he floats a mana next turn, but if you think about it, he either floats a mana turn 1 or he floats a mana turn 2, but he's floating a mana that he gained on turn 1. So basically the plan here is to, even though it doesn't seem too great, he knows he's probably going to be able to use Wrath here. So he Wraths right here, and then he gets to play the Shredder, and he wouldn't be able to do this if he didn't coin into the Wild Growth. So even though it seems strange, not having a 3 mana play on turn 2, yet he's coining out the Wild Growth, it ends up making sense in the long run.
Yeah, and the good news comes as Zhangbo has Hero Power past turn 3, where he's kind of relieved that he could play the Shredder without too much worry about the board.
He has his own living roots, does Buer, which is pretty interesting. Let's see if we see a Keeper or maybe a Swipe. Yeah, it looks like it's just going to be. It's going to be in a Moonfire actually. Okay, doesn't silence it. Goes for that. And Defias Ringleader comes out. Oh my goodness, Big Game Hunter. That could be a huge swing in this game, and most likely will be. And I honestly don't know if Zhangbo will be able to recover from this. This is going to be ridiculous. In fact,
Yes, and
he can use living roots, excuse me, to take out this keeper and discard more cards, and then use the BGH, which is absolutely insane.
yeah, and Buer could play the Asian War next turn, which is really hard for Zhangbo to deal with since he has already used one Kibler Grove, and we see Dr. Boom discarded the Nasus now.
Right, Dr. Boom is huge, obviously, because usually there's not two BGHs in the Druid arsenal, and we see it getting pointed at. You see Zhangbo, he saw that something is getting pointed at with 3 mana. He knew what was happening there, and he cannot be happy about this at all.
Not at all, indeed. And he could play the Lances and the Shredder, but this Asian War is really something Zhangbo doesn't want to see.
Right, and like you mentioned, he's already used his Keeper of the Grove, so that's a very difficult situation to get out of. Yeah, this is the problem with playing aggressive decks, right? You really need the snowball, or else if there's any sort of parity, or even if you're behind, the game's like almost over. Question here for Buer is, how much does he clear? Probably clears this. Yeah, it's just gonna clear this Darnassus and put this big guy up. If you leave too much on the board, you know, Savage Roar can hurt you as far as clearing the taunts in the way.
Yeah, but things might have come to a point you actually can raise with your opponent. Then you have 3 minions, which will be safe and sound, and you have Savage Roar, you have Swipe.
Right, I think he's gonna start racing at this point, especially because he has just removal in his hand. Right, he can start just removing stuff. I think it was perfectly reasonable to. Oh no, Darnassus. I think it was perfectly reasonable, honestly, to start trading last turn. But I think this turn, yeah, it's probably okay to start hitting the face here. Oh no, he's gonna keep trading actually. Well, kind of. Might as well get 1 minion off the board, right? Doesn't want to have his Lotha be too vulnerable, so he's gonna keep it at nice 3 health. And there's just so much damage on the board here from Buer. Zhangbo, I mean, he's basically just going to have to start clearing. I think he has to play Force Nature here.
Yes, but is he still dead? No, not quite. But,
I mean, he could Savage Roar and clear both the Savage Roar swipe and clear both the Lothib and the Ancient of War. Looks like that's going to be... Oh, he's going to actually swipe that. Maybe try to go for a Doomsayer here. It probably feels like that's his base case, and you can't really blame him, honestly. Yeah, that was definitely a situation where he honestly had a less than 1 in 70 or whatever chance it is that you get the Doomsayer, so I think that was actually a good decision. But does drop the game there, and it's going to be tied 2-2 going into our final game as Buer picks up a win with his Druid. Now we're just going to see the Warlock from him, and we might get our wish and see an Handsome Volcano Handlock.
No.
No? No, it's not going to happen?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not like this?
Not like this.
But, yeah, our first match of the day going all the way to 5 games, which is not what we expected after those first 2 games. Went lightning quick, right? So, good on Buer to get this back. And this is kind of the problem with, Zhangbo playing 3 aggressive decks. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, and they can fall flat in certain situations. We'll see if he can pick up this last game, or if Buer can complete the comeback. And we'll get a good look at Buer's deck.
Even though it's kind of interesting that Ding actually, the caster on the left, actually saw him bring a priest into this tournament. So it might be interesting priest later as well. No.
Alright, so this looks like it's going to be a Demon Zoo. It could still be something like Reno, but most likely it's not. Considering
it could be, it could be Malygos as well.
Malygos, you don't have enough room for both Demon and Dragon synergy, so I highly doubt that it's Malygos. But yeah, it's basically it's a small chance it's Reno, but it's most likely Zoo here. So we'll see how this plays out. Both pretty aggressive decks though. The aggro Druid typically gets to a bit of a faster start. Buer really considering keeping this Void Caller, but yeah, I definitely think you have to throw it away. It's just too much of a late game card. You see the Night Juggler, which means that's even more of an indication that it is going to be Zoo. We'll see how these players go against each other. Living Roots into Darnassus is pretty good here for Buer, or excuse me, for Zhangbo. And Haunted Creeper picked up, which is nice as well to be able to counter those living roots. We'll see what Buer goes with on turn 2, because obviously this Darnassus is coming out. I wonder if he's a bit worried about, this Darnassus. Maybe he uses his Abusive Sergeant, and yeah, it looks like that's going to be the case. Doesn't want any 4-drops coming out anytime soon.
Yeah, he's actually thinking about the placement of the Abusive Sergeant, which actually, it's not that urgent because most of the board will be dead before you can play anything like Dark Wolf Alpha or the what you call it, Quadrop 3 on the board. Oh, this is one of the things that you can bring to, but you don't really see that often.
Right, yeah, not really seeing Noitron too much. Maybe it was something that he wanted to include into his deck to maybe counter some of the players in this group. I mean, you are seeing 3 aggressive decks here out of Zhangbo, so having something like a Noitron to kind of hold off the pressure is actually kind of nice here. I actually see the Keeper coming down to clear this off. I was wondering if he was going to just silence it up, but looks like it's not going to be the case. And Void Color hits the field. If it does get destroyed, then a Void Terror would come out, as we see the Fel Reaver come right off the top and onto the battlefield. And how is he going to take care of this? Looks like it's going to be an implosion into probably a power overwhelming, which is all he can really do right now. He can't be taking 8 damage a turn.
Yeah, 3 is nice, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Consider the swipe already in hand of Zhangbo. Swipe probably.
Well, if it was 2, he might not need a swipe. Although there's not much else he can do anyway. But yeah, it's probably going to be swipe and drew the saber. He might charge the face, unless he's worried about something like a Night Juggler killing it off easily. But yeah, I do like the charge to the face. The extra damage is pretty relevant here.
We're definitely not looking happy. Oh, Defender Augurs is something you can pick up.
Alright, so yeah, just wanted to get the minion here and gets the Void Walker. Just to get something in the way so he stops taking damage. And probably going to be Dr. Boom coming up here. Could be a Savage Roar maybe. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't really need to be clearing this board. Just put the Dr. Boom on the field. Even if Night Juggler hits Boom Bots, it's, it doesn't really matter. Oh, he's going to kill the Night Juggler. Okay. It's going to be play pretty safe, and Buer is in a really tough spot here. Wants to pick up a 1-drop, does not, gets the Mal'Ganis instead. Can, take out this Keeper, but he's taking so much damage now. And in fact, that could be game, I think, if he Savage Roars.
I think that is game.
Well, Force Nature might be game as well. Hero Power, so that's 6, 13, 14, yeah. It's 1 damage over lethal. It could be even more if the Boombot hits. And Zhangbo, after a bit of a scare, being up 2-0, and his opponent came back to tie the series at 2-2, he is, in the end, going to advance to the winner's match. He's going to face the winner of Sword and MrHumor. Big smile on his face right here. He is the Xi'an winner, of the Xi'an Gold Series winner, so continuing his run here. And definitely good for him, especially because he's not, as big of a name or, as accomplished as some of the players here, so it's good to see him continuing his run.
Definitely. And Buer is going to